I don't know if anyone can hear this. I don't know if anyone cares. This is independent librarian dynamic Sean Kennedy VI. This is a broadcast so that you and yesterday can stop tomorrow from happening. This is a broadcast so that the beginning can change to stop the end. This is episode 732.653.663.398.36.2. Broadcasting from sometime after now. I can't give you an exact time of this broadcast because, well, time has been copywritten. Lots of arguments about what year it is, and so at the risk of giving out false data, I'll give no data instead and just let you know what I know to be fact. If you're listening to this, you could lose your listener's license. If you're afraid of being persecuted for what you think, you should probably turn that off now. But if you want to stick around and listen to what I got to say, but light your candles, and may serve or protect us all. I told you my name was Independent Librarian Dynamic Sean Kennedy VI. It's quite the name, isn't it? People used to just say their names like just what their parents would give them. There was no job description or anything like that. See, now, inside the arcs, when you introduce yourself to people, your name has it all. That's who you are. It's your name, right? You are your job. And it was a matter of time before it got to where it's at today. Being independent is a huge slag. It means that you're not employed or you work for yourself. So when you introduce yourself, you say what company you work with first. In this case, it's I'm an independent, followed by my job, which is a librarian, which I say rather tongue-in-cheek since all libraries are illegal and books are banned, and well, any kind of sharing is considered theft. The dynamic, it's hard to explain, but everything has been given internet protocol addresses here. It's information transfer is all done wirelessly. It's a broadcast, so when you're part of a company, they give you an IP range. In your company, depending on your IP range, tells you your seniority. So I say I'm an independent librarian dynamic. That means that I'll take any IP that's given to me. Rogue IP at your service. Sean Kennedy VI. I guess that's a little misleading. I don't actually remember how old I am. See, I'm not the son of Sean Kennedy V. That's, well, in a kind of a philosophical sense, I probably am, but life extension came into play, and once life extension started to happen, genetic modification, DNA modification, it was hard to tell people how old you were. You walk up to this 26-year-old woman and she'd tell you that she was 104, and it didn't work. So to show, probably more just for the thrill of it, we started putting how much life extension in our names. So I've had 6 different types of life extension done, so that would make me Sean Kennedy VI. That could be anything from cloning modification to genetic alteration to DNA reprocessing, genetic manipulation. All that falls into life extension. I wonder if doctor's visits can be considered life extension. Mostly that kind of thing is done for the rich, and only by the rich today. Unless you can go to one of the more advanced cities where they've got the black ops to do it. I mean, the gen joking I had done was pretty extreme stuff. I was very lucky. I only got minor brain damage out of the whole deal. I had problems remembering things. Not day-to-day things, but whole sections of my life are gone. Kind of brings up the question of memory. Sometimes when I'm walking or I'm traveling somewhere, I'll realize I'm at my destination and I don't remember walking there. I don't know if there's something I could compare that to, but you did the same thing every day, and one day you don't remember walking. You're just all of a sudden at the end of it. Since I've lived well over 100 years for sure, life kind of gets the same way. I just don't remember a few years. That might sound odd, I guess. But do you remember every minute of your life? Makes me wonder if life extension is worth it. If you had a choice between living forever and not remembering it, are you really living forever, or are you just kind of nothing more than a goldfish, traveling along, not able to retain all your knowledge? Living for the sake of living. That's as good as reason as any, I guess. May as well keep going. Time out here. See, they copyrighted time, and then it became a security issue. It was something to do with the computers and the programming. I guess all computers use clocks in relation with programs. I'm not a monk. I don't understand how that works, but see, if they worked on a different type of time, apparently the programs couldn't be corrupted. That's why one of the main reasons that time wound up getting so carefully guarded, copywritten. So, what time it is depends on what company you work for. On the fringes out here, time usually is kept track by calendars, by parents who have children, and they try to mark down the day so they can remember what birthday they have. A lot of us have GPS receivers. We get the time from them, but even the GPSs are sometimes flawed because of water table shift or something like that. I heard about it once. Satellites have moved and the Earth's shifted since they went up. Most things are done out here by GPS. There's no streets or addresses of any kind, so quite often you'll get a GPS, global positioning system, that runs off the antique satellites and kind of try to keep track of where your stashes are and where you find different locations. It works out okay. Usually there's not much more than 100 meters worth of error between any two of them. Some of them are way out to lunch, but you can tell someone you're going to meet them. There's a good chance you'll both be in the same area. They get the grid right. Memories. I wish I could remember it all, because then I could tell you about it. I told you what I do remember. About the plague, the burning. One thing I didn't tell you about was my wife. I was married. I'm ashamed to tell you I don't remember her name. I think I lost that on a genetic rescan. I tried to hold on to the name, but it slipped away. She was beautiful, I know that much. She had long hair, laughing eyes. I see her sometimes in my dreams when I'm unlucky, because I wake up and she's gone. When the plagues hit, there's paranoia everywhere. people didn't know what the plague was. They knew it wasn't a fallout. The more sensitive people, well, they died first. Old warhawks like me, well, we stuck around for a while. Our genetically sick sense of humor, I guess. But she died. So many other people died. Hysteria was mounting. Nobody knew what was causing it. You never seen hysteria until you see people afraid of bioweapons and plague. They kill their own children. Some people did. Everything I had was destroyed. We didn't know what the plague could land on, so if someone had plague, sometimes they'd burn the whole house. You know, these strange, thug-like groups trying to keep their neighborhoods pure. At that time, I was scared too. I didn't know what was going on, so I had these burn pits set up. This is long before the burn booths went in. The burn booths didn't go in for years after that. They use accelerants to... You dig a big hole, you know, and then stack the bodies in there. And then they burn them. And all their clothes and everything. And the families, people who were left, they sat back on the edges of this hole and just watched their relatives burn. I wish I could forget the time that I burned my wife. She was so thin after the plague had got through and it was like I was carrying a skeleton. I wrapped her in sheets and carried her. Took her down to the pits where the burn was going to happen. Everyone was crying, and the smell of accelerants, gasoline, kerosene, everything was everywhere, and the smell was just sickening. There's people carrying children, babies. It was like this huge, wailing sea of people surrounding this pit. Everything flashed. I didn't feel right about burning her, but with the plague, no one knew what was happening, so we had to do it. I'd lost just about everything. I'd sold almost everything off in order to try to survive. Wedding ring was gone, all the jewelry was gone, all the valuables were gone. The only thing that meant anything to me was my wife, and she was gone too. I wasn't even going to be able to keep anything from her. And I got an idea. I found a corner of the burn pile where they were stacking the bodies, where there was only children. And I laid her on the pile. And I walked back and I watched that spot. There was only a few children there. And they walked around and doused the pile. They got us all back because they had to burn it. The whole time, I got as far back, but I counted my paces and focused on the exact spot where she was. And they lit it on fire. Burning human flesh smells a lot like pork. You can always tell people who've been in the burn piles to just stop eating a lot of meat. Smoke. It's gasoline. Children wailing, everyone screaming in the heat. Even at the distance we were at was unbelievable. Searing heat. Most people turned and walked away, they couldn't bear it. I stayed. It the smoke and the ashes falling, I stayed. Eventually the fire burned out. I don't remember how long I stayed in for, but it was a long time. There was only the crews that were going to start filling it in, but I made my way down to where I knew she was. Yeah, there's nothing left. There was only the ashes, and by the time I got down into the pit, there's people who saw me and they started to yell. People do strange things in times of grief. So I did the same thing. I pretended that I was insane, I guess. The burn pit was fairly steep and they'd long since closed off the walkway down, so I slid down. The workers didn't want to go in after me. It took them a while to get people yelling and screaming. I didn't have much time. I went to the spot where my wife was and I started sifting through the ashes. I was looking for her teeth. My logic, because there's so many children, it'd be easy to tell her teeth apart from theirs. I found some. They're the only adult teeth there. I kept them in my pocket. I was so dirty by the time the work crews got to me, they dragged me away and I was screaming and crying. The ash on my fingers and hands, all over my clothes and my hair. We were all these gray vultures burying the dead. I didn't have time to sort through them then. I just grabbed all the little rocks. Teeth feel like little rocks. Every time I found them, I just shoved them in my pockets. They didn't know what was wrong with me. They just dragged me out of the pit. I felt bad about throwing away the children's teeth. They had a lot of life out of them and they were just gone. Snuffed out by the plane. But I found some of my wife's teeth. I made a little bag for them and I kept it with me. I have it right now. That's all that's left. That and the scarring nightmares I have. And then I have to wake up to this. It's easier just to stay in the rain than to come in from it for a little while and then be forced to go back out. It's lucky when I don't dream. Sorry about that, I guess. It doesn't do you much good, does it? Thanks for giving you information. Hard data so you can stop the future. I figured you should know at least who's talking to you. A little bit about my motivation. I wish this was a two-way conversation. I wish I could hear what you were saying. If I could ask you a question, I guess I want to know if anybody remembers my wife's name. I don't really care about anything else, but people you have close to you, they're what's important. She was the last one who was close to me. What else can I tell you? What else can I tell you about me? I'm about 6'2", about 180 pounds, I guess. I'm bald. I got a lot of scars. Too many scars. Still got all my digits, though. Haven't had to cut anything out. Come close a few times. The hands have gotten pretty ravaged on. You'd be surprised how quickly your hands can heal. Being a librarian, I get to read a lot. Being as I can read. Reading is a privilege. It's a great honor. It's like telepathy. You can hear what people are saying, trapped in time. I think it's kind of like this. I like to read a lot of history. Not because I'm interested in how we got this way, just because I like to imagine myself living in that time. A lot of parallels to now, since guns are banned. I mean, on the fringe out here, if you don't have weapons, then you're just another piece of meat. The blade is king here. The importance of the shiv, the shank. Everyone out here is armed. In the beginnings, when there's always that uneasy tension, you know, that you're walking around and there's no law on the fringe, but there's groups of people and we've all seen too much violence. Communities police their own. But out here, everybody's well aware of the fact that might really does make right. And force is the supreme authority. Communities are forged by fear. We live more in packs than societies. People get rolled. Everybody wears armor here too, because I mean there are still different types of slug throwers. People made slings, they got rail weapons, they got electronically created garbage, they got even a few real guns float around, but I mean, if you had a real gun, you'd be pretty much forced to protect it pretty good, because everybody would want it. I have a kukri. That's my knife. I've used it a few times. I don't like to talk about it. Sometimes people attack you. Desperate people. People who want nothing more than to survive, and they're so savage. Everything's got a right to defend itself. Luckily, because of Carcass, most people leave me alone. Carcass. I don't know if I mentioned Carcass. He's my dog. Wow, he's a canine system anyway. I'll tell you more about him later. You can always tell people who got robbed out here. Everyone, we call them rollers. The first thing they do after you get rolled, you wake up, and if you do wake up, you're doing okay. And you get stuffed in a burn booth or get gut sold or anything. It's like a weird ethics of robbing people. They just take your stuff and leave you naked and bloody and stuffed in a burned out car somewhere. If they're lucky, they don't leave you in the street. I've never been rolled. Tried to help the people who were. I always tell a roller they're naked, and the ones that are smart, the first thing they do is they make themselves a target vest. Target vest is a piece of metal, two pieces of metal with holes drilled, and they take scraps of string or wire and they make it like a sandwich board that goes over their chest and back. See, when you're naked, you're obviously not wearing armor. Everyone here wears armor. So, people who robbed you may not want to sell your guts, but there's lots of people out here who do. And they'll take a shot at you. Next order, of course, is to get yourself get a blade. Everybody out here has knives, everyone. I mean, guns were a pretty recent invention when you think about it. How long did the blade rule the earth? It's amazing. Sometimes you see guys with swords, Japanese, European style, but swords are worth a lot. So if you've got a sword, you have to know how to use it, because everybody's going to challenge you to try to get your sword. After you chop a few people up, I guess they kind of get the point. But most people with swords have a name. Most people know who they are. In a way, I suppose, I mean, a knife is useful, right? Like you use it in daily life, but carrying a sword around, well, that's really only got one purpose, so you're kind of inviting trouble. Kukris are good like that. Half axe, half machete. That's pretty badass when you pull one. I've avoided a lot of fights that way. Sometimes I try to use my height to my advantage, but that only works with the skag gangs who don't know anything. The toughest people I ever met were under 5'5". Savage. Last thing you want to get made for is an easy mark. When you get flesh ripping, I'll explain that later, but they essentially cut up your body and they sell it. Or they'll try to take your head, turn it into skag. Skag is a, I don't know, I guess I'd call it drugs, but it's not really drugs. Everything's all run by gangs now, right? There's no policing, so what they pay money for heads, fresh heads. I don't know what the procedure is. They crack the head open and they extract hormones from it and sell the hormones as drugs. Get a head of stag, you can get adrenaline and stuff like that harvested from heads. Teenage kids are at high risk, especially when they're around puberty. They'll take the head, stuff the body in a burn booth. Sometimes they won't even pick up the change. Safety. There's no safety here. Just the unavoidable tension of an armed society. Of course, that's just out here on the fringe. Out here on the fringe, it's anybody's game. You wonder why I do it. Well, these people need to learn too, and well, I can handle it, but maybe it's better. I mean, there's a certain sense of freedom, I suppose. The fringe is the first stage of the city when you come in. Beyond the fringe, there's the wasteland, and well, in the wasteland, it's, God only knows what's out there. Weird cults and communes. I mean, there's all kinds of stories. Going in towards the cities, you got the outer reaches. This is where people who work at the buildings that aren't the arcologies, anything that's not an arcology that's in the inner city, these people, the unfortunate ones, live there, janitors and whatnot. Gated communities with sometimes volunteered cops, sometimes paid. Young fellows who work to protect the group from, well, scumbags like me. That's out here on the fringe, or wasteland raiders, or whatever comes their way. Fringes and outer reaches blend back and forth like the good, bad sections of town. There's no definitive line. I mean, I don't know how to describe it to you. It's like a battlefield, I guess. Once you get past the outer reaches, you're into the inner city, and that's almost like a really, really bad section of town that, used to exist in the 20th century. They'd be like these buildings and cameras everywhere watching things. Mega police monitoring situations. Sometimes they'll show up. I mean, there's the mega police. I mean, they don't go to the outer reaches much. Some will. I mean, there's good cops, I guess, but most of the mega police it's a real crapshoot if they show up. I mean, this guy's a judge, jury, executioner on the spot. They got the real guns and they got shock armor, and they know what that armor and that gun is worth. So, just walk up to these guys and start talking to them. They're pretty serious. Usually they'll pass sentence right there on the spot. They don't even bother trying to arrest people anymore. I mean, they just beat them down or kill them, shoot them, whatever. Stomp them. If it's going by the books and they got supervisors with them or whatever, they'll take them to the Four Seasons. Four Seasons. It's another street slang term. I try to keep street slang down. See, since Queen's English is copyrighted, that's what I try to use, so that you know the way the language is supposed to sound. So that not just people in the glass towers know how to talk properly. The Four Seasons is a slang term from the Four Seas. They went in, it's what the prison system became, convicted consumer concentration camps. They use them for labor and whatnot. They just tell these prisoners you're convicted of a crime, you wind up going to the camps and working for society, feed your propaganda day in, day out, monitor 24/7. There's points you have to, you get so many points you have to generate in a day in order for that day to count on your sentence, so that if you're sent for 30 days to Four Seasons, then if you screw up, they take away points. This means that a 30-day sentence can last 6 months if you don't get enough points to have that day count. The last thing they want to do is get rid of you, because that gets rid of their labor. And that's just a threat from the Four Seasons. There's lots of other stuff too. Like, I've heard people, if you got a rare blood type or something like that, I'd sooner shoot myself than go there, because they'll be farming you for organs. God only knows. You're better off in the city corps. The city corps is court police. But if they catch you, you're probably better off in the camps. I don't know what happens to people that the court police get a hold of. They're corporately funded, right? So they got all the toys. They got high-tech stuff. Like, I've heard the Panashiba cops have robots that run in the sewers under the city, and they've got really high-end cybernetics. People stop trying to break into the arcologies and steal stuff. One does not try to sneak into an arcology. One hides from the arcology. Corp cops, don't answer to anyone, and, the government can't stand up to them, so a bunch of corp cops caught you. If you manage to walk away from that, you're doing okay. All in all, it's best not to wander. It's best to stick near your neighborhood. If we can call it that out here. I guess maybe it's more of a neighborhood on the fringe. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone looks after everyone. The place I'm at right now, they call Trash Town. I'm out here trying to give these people some information. Looks like a giant scrap pile of cars. They got car condos. Looks like big pyramids of cars stacked neatly on top of each other. Each car, it's a family living in it. They climb up on the mountain and find their little spot and burrow in there. Gives them safety numbers when they sleep. These piles of cars. You get used to the smell after a while. Stink of these sewage is everywhere on the fringes. Can't get away from it. waste deck hasn't made its way out this far yet. That'll probably be coming in here soon, though. Waste tech is about as big as you can get being an inner core company without being an arcology. See, they handle all of our sanitation, and they make waste gas out of it. They put in toilets, these public toilets. They use recycled water that's filtered. People can have showers. In the houses, they, in the inner city, and even in some of the outer reaches, they have, accounts with the houses. Apparently, you used to have to pay to use the toilet. Now they pay you to use the toilet. Everything that's organic that gets flushed down your toilet, you get money for. It's not like a real credit account. I mean, it's fingerprint specific, right? I mean, when you come in the booths, they have a slot of money right there. They weigh it, filter it, and give you your worth on the spot. But, when it's in the houses, it's all fingerprint specific. They do a fingerprint retina scan. Because their other big business, aside from harvesting human waste and making gas out of it, it's the vendors. Well, vending machines, huge, black, monolithic vending machines. They used to get robbed before they started putting bombs in them. Now, if you tip one over, it's liable to detonate, take out a whole neighborhood. Of course, that's illegal, but the company just claims that they're not responsible if their equipment's damaged. Somehow, I guess, it got past. I mean, no one really cares anyway. Now no one would even try to fight it. I mean, everything you want sold by the vendors, mostly scrap. Put in money and use your own credit you got within the company. The vending machine will hand out food for you. Can't remember what the ratio is. It's like 3 to 1 or something like that. But it'll keep you alive. Again, even then, that's mostly on the outer reaches. Now, if you're on the fringe, I mean, they just give you hard currency. Walking around with money is pretty dangerous. Your best just to go and spend it right away on scrap. Head over to the machine. If you got a house or you're lucky enough to have a space that you're renting to live in, I mean, they'll give you credit then, but if you're just a transient like most of us out here, well, it's a joke. Waste tech isn't real credit, they just gave us the finger, See, in order to be in the arcs, there's the arc lifestyle. It's like another world. It's not even the same place in the arcologies. See, in there you're employed, and inside there you're paid by credit. Everything is done by credit. There's no actual physical cash. And inside the arcologies, when you eat, they take everything out of account, so you don't actually hold money in your hands. You have so many credits to your account, and then it's all linked, it's all digital. Let's see, the big one is having a child. If you have a child, that's very, very expensive in the arcologies. I don't care who you are, it puts you, the whole family, and therefore the child, in debt. And that child will work the rest of their lives in that arcology trying to pay for the privilege of being born. They call this their self-worth. It's amazing, isn't it? And ironically enough, the older you get, the less they're worth, because they paid off most of their debt. With any luck, with any hope, Don't die broke. If you think that's brutal, the reason why I do what I do is for education. That's why I'm a librarian. Trying to break the circle. See, to have education, you must be licensed. In order to be licensed, to be part of a licensing scheme, you have to be employed. But to become employed, you must have a credit rating. They do a credit rating check. To have a credit rating, well, you have to have a bank account. To have an account, you must be sponsored by some company. To get sponsored, you gotta have an education. And that brings us back to, in order to have an education, you gotta be licensed. No money, no bank, no job, no education, no money. Repeat. If you're not born into the arts, it's pretty hard to get your way in there. Sometimes in hostile takeovers, or I've heard of whole families that were living in the arcs just get swept out. You know, just gone out in the street. Of course, they don't live 20 minutes out here. There's all kinds of ways to make money. Growing up on the fringes and the outer reaches and that shit. We call it treasure hunting with the kids, you know, they shouldn't be out doing it, but they wander through the areas. Scavenging for tech out to the wastelands. They bring back whatever they find and they barter for food. Whole families can do that just to survive. I mean, you just go around areas that are off limits and whatnot and see what you can find that's worth something. More often than not, the kids out here, they all in gangs, they hook up with the gangs. Different gangs for sections of the city. If a family moves into a section of the city in some of the areas that reaches in the fringe, I mean, if you live in an area, a member of your family better be part of that gang, in which case it's all good. If not, then you'll probably have to move. And then, yeah, learn how to make your crack sticks. Crack sticks are CPU stacks they use for cracking vending machines. Oh yeah, they still get robbed. I mean, but now they just take these little circuit boards and they daisy chain all these processors together and overclock the whole works so that they can use them for brute force hard encryption breaking. Mostly liches and that buy them, some monks, but, you know, they sell. They're illegal, of course, you get busted with a crack stick, I mean, but the last thing you gotta worry about is being arrested. I mean, if you even saw a crack stick in your ecology, you'd probably be questioned for days. Everyone scavenges for the fences. Those are the guys who buy all these black market stuff. I mean, every little area's got a fence. Everyone knows who the fence is. You know, I got stuff to sell. Sure, go see the fence. And then they give out cash. It's like a whole sub-black market. I stay away from it. But you can't avoid it. I mean, it's always there. On slow days, you wind up flesh ripping. I mean, you can do good if you get a spider. I mean, if you kill a spider for a plant animal, you can make out okay, but I'll talk more about the spiders another time. Spiders are mostly on the inner city, and you don't want to mess with them too much. Flesh ripping is when you find the dead and you wind up cashing them in. In the beginning, it was just, you know, burn boothing bodies and getting money, but eventually, in free enterprise, you figure out a way to get more money. You see, if it's dead fresh, you know, if you find a fresh corpse, you can, you know, you debone it, and the bones go into the burn booths, and you drain it for the blood. And generally, you find yourself a toilet, one of the waste tech booths, and pour the blood down the toilet. That way, you get the cash, so you can make gas from it, right? I mean, if you get a fresh body that's less than 30 minutes, I mean, you want to get down to the body banks. I mean, that's gut selling. They take the organs out, That's the biggest way to make money. But the problem is you show up with a body, they take it inside. If they can't use anything, they cut up the body, and you don't get the body back. You wind up walking out of there with a donut, right? Nothing. They had them all set up like emergency wards in the old days. You run in with your body, and they rush in. And, man, they got it down to an art form. You should see a body come apart in one of those places. Sometimes families would kill one of their own just to survive. You see them out of the view, because of course the body banks frown on this activity. They know what's happening. 2 crying parents, 3 crying kids, bringing a 4th child with a very, very recent smash on his head. Chances are they hit him with a brick. Then again, you can always sell the fresh heads to the skag lords. Especially if the teenagers, good bucks for that. Personally, I think it's unethical. I'd never sell heads for drugs. I mean, that's just... I'll just stick with the straight flesh ripping. I don't have to do that much, though. I used to, but... I mean, being a librarian, that's how I make my living. Sharing data. Using the barter system for food and shelter. I just keep data and give it to them, copy it out, transfer it to tablets. I mean, that stuff's free. There's no shortage of tech that displays information. Most of the trash out here is silicon-based. It's too easy to find. Televisions are everywhere. Sometimes trucks come through and hand out tablets. Even in the inner city, I mean, there's fringes and stuff. Vending machines sell them. There's always advertising. Even in the inner city, I want to advertise. Some people pay to get tattoos done, things like that. Doesn't pay anything. You get your whole back done, and you might walk out of there with enough food for a week. On top of being a librarian, see, I move around a lot. I don't stay in one spot. It's dangerous. I can't tell you too much about it because it will compromise my position. Librarians are the most hated and hunted of all the outside trades. I mean, it's... they hate us. Maybe we remind them of the morals they don't have or something, I don't know. I have a job inside the arcologies as well. Not in the arcologies, I'm not one of the privileged, but I come and go out of them. That's all I can say. All I can say right now. So my position's somewhat unique. Again, you don't live as long as I do for 6 generations without having a few tricks up your sleeve. I should get going. I'll broadcast again as soon as I can. Give you more information. I don't know if there's anything you can use out of this. If it helps, you can see trends or see how they're working. The human resources and companies like WasteTech and Panashiba and them, I mean, there's got to be some kind of way to stop them. Can't stop them now, I sure can. Maybe you can. This is Independent Librarian Dynamic, Sean Kennedy the 6th, broadcasting sometime after now, at an unknown grid. Please help me.